Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the first Facebook Live of the year 2022. It is the 5th of January, year 2022. I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year's, enjoyed yourself, and are ready to start a amazing, incredible, we don't know what's in the future for us, but a miraculous 2022 for us. So today, I don't see our normal panel members other than Eileen, but we welcome everyone else that is here. So introducing everyone one by one. So we have our incredible Eileen back. Welcome, Eileen. Happy New Year. And then after a few weeks, we have Michelle back, who's a fellow member and normally has been attending the Facebook Live Q&A with us. So good evening, Michelle. And Ken is here as well, who is a fellow member and one of our core group in our group meditations members. So good evening, Ken. And John has joined as well. So today, actually, Michelle, I had your question. Let me see if I can pull it up. Remember, I posted something about, okay, I said, or the excerpt from Eckhart said something about like when is your non-acceptance going to turn into, I'm paraphrasing this whole thing, when is your non-acceptance going to turn into a state where the negativity no longer arises, right? And you wrote a not so subtle shift here from acceptance to non-negative emotion creation. But how to arrive at the next stage? Is it through continued meditation, diet, knowledge, presence, practice, or is that simply divine grace? I love that question. So I said, okay, I'll bring it up on the Facebook Live. So does that make it understandable? You want to get started, Michelle, because it was your question. You want to explain it a little bit more? Thank you. And speak to it.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. Yeah, sometimes you can be in a state of acceptance, but there's like the little background irritation mood type of thing that kind of, even though you're accepting it and you're surrendering and you know what's happening and what's going to happen, and there might be some stress buildup and you're present with it, sometimes there's like a background noise, like a little bit of irritation. And so you kind of surrender to it, but it still remains. So it's not this full-blown anger or suffering, you know, to a degree that's that noticeable, but it's just kind of like a background noise because maybe you're stressed with time or energetically, I think is more what it is. So I think that's what I was referring to. It doesn't happen all the time, but I know that for me, at least, when there's a lot of things piling up at the same time, you know, I handle it much better. I'm present pretty much all the time, but there's just like that background noise, you know? So how do you kind of navigate that, you know, and go to the other side of that?
So what do you yourself do?
I accept it, you know, I mean, it comes and goes, but I try not to buy into it too much, you know, and not get reactive about it and just notice it, but it doesn't necessarily go away, you know? So I think that's what he was talking about. So you can offer it acceptance, but then I think he meant in that passage, it was that going beyond it, right? Going beyond the acceptance of it. So it's kind of like, okay, now you're like, you know, in a different realm. And I'm not there, you know, there's times where I am, but there's times where, you know, you're still kind of in that acceptance phase, but not necessarily. And, you know, I guess it's that part where he says there's 3 levels of there's acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm, right? In that last, I think the 9th or the 10th chapter of the New Earth, right? So sometimes you have to just, you kind of not, I guess you alternate between one and the other. I mean, I think that's just the human experience. But I could say more and more, I'm into more enthusiasm and enjoyment than I am. But when you're in that acceptance phase where things aren't going your way, where there's like the examples he gives, where there's a tire that goes out or lots going on, you know, I'm more energetically prepared for handling it, but there just still seem to be remnants of, you know, background noise or irritation, you know, but I don't give it too much. I try not to give it too much importance, you know. I'm just like, okay, this is where I'm at right now, you know, so it doesn't occupy so much space in my head, you know.
I'd say one thing about it, which we recently watched a couple of videos of his during group meditation. And in one of the, I cannot exactly remember which talk it was, but he always says what is happening externally is what is internal. What is happening if we are getting chaotic, right? That means internally we are chaotic. Something is going on that, and then I'll ask Eileen this question. How does she feel now as opposed to 2 years ago? I think Michelle is not able to hear us. You're able to hear us? Okay, perfect, thank you. So there is some degree of chaos inside vibrationally. And that's why things are getting chaotic. So that would be the time that we would want to still ourselves. Like, even though there is too much going on, say, okay, I need to separate myself. And we need to, it's not so much as we need to, the presence power needs to be there, that somehow my vibrational energy is generating chaos and I need to step back into the background, which is into presence in this moment, or for the next hour, or next until the chaos dies. I need to step back. Even though, however, unless it's a medical emergency, right, then we have to act. But not always do we have to keep acting no matter what the chaos is. I think one thing is we are habituated, Michelle, like I know my mother, right? So this goes back to like that very Germanic, I don't know if you have German origins. They have to keep doing something. Like the chaos has to be there. Like if something is not happening, oh, what's happening with the delivery guy, or what's happening with did the maidservant come in? Did she do this? Did she do that? Like constantly the mind is active with some activity or the other, right? And the body is habituated with that. Like if we were at peace, right, that everything was going peacefully, she would generate something that'll shake up the whole piece. Some kind of worry or some kind of negativity, right? And some kind of, she'd say something caustic to generate that. So it almost is like what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, right? Like our body is so used to that emotional feeling of chaos that it wants that chaos. So somehow we have to train our body to know of a different way of being at peace. Let me rest Let me settle down and I will be at peace. Let me settle down and I will be at peace. Let me settle down. I don't need the chaos. I don't need so many, like, like, I was telling Patricia, I don't know if you're in group meditation or something. Like if she went to a friend's house or something, and then she was feeling negativity. And I said, the moment you felt negativity, you should say, excuse me, I need to leave and leave. Because we are not generating, then that means we are not generating in that moment. We are no longer generating presence power, and we are contributing to the negativity we are introducing negativity into the atmosphere, into the energy of the planet, right? So that's why Eckhart says our inner state is the most important. You know that you always respond on Facebook as well about that. How we do things is more important than what we do, how we do. So you very well know that. So Eileen, you want to say something about this? Thank you, Michelle.
Yep. A couple things came up for me while Michelle was talking, and then a few other things came up while you were talking. The first thing that kind of came up for me is when Michelle, when you're talking about like the background noise, I'm taking that as like the inside chatter, like the talking that goes on inside of our heads, like this mind madness activity that goes on. It's part of our experience. And one thing that I was talking yesterday to a group of people during a meditation about was the ability to like notice things, witness things, accept things as arising, whether it be this mind activity or sensations that come up, whatever it is, as a form of like letting go, which is what people say they want to do. That's what I'm working on, letting things kind of go, is really thinking about it as kind of like passing through. So like whatever the experience is, the mental activity or pain, whatever, like having it pass through us. So it's like passing through our awareness, but then it doesn't stay, it doesn't get stuck. Doesn't mean it's not going to come up again in another 5 seconds from now, because that's what happens. But then again, like just noticing it, giving it your awareness, and then letting it pass through. I think this practice is really, really important because things tend to get stuck, and not just in the moment. They tend to get stuck and then stay there. It could stay there for a day, it could stay there for an hour, it could stay there for a week, it could stay there for the next 40 years. So really using our awareness practices, that presence practice of noticing and then letting it pass through. That was something that came up while Michelle was talking. And then something that I think a lot of people do is try and like resist. So like pushing it away or stuffing it down. And those things are just going to give it more and more energy. So I think the awareness is key of being able to recognize it, notice it, and then just let it pass. And then Poonam, when you were talking about how, coming into a space that might be, chaotic, that we too have that, internally, if your situation is chaotic internally. And I think Ken and I talked about this before, how it's like a mirror, something that's happening in our environment, taking a moment to stop and ask ourselves, what is it that's happening inside of me? What internally is going on right now energetically that's making this my current life situation? Because that chaos that's out here is in there. It might just not look exactly the same. So the other day, my daughter is in like full blown meltdown. She's been having these for a while now, and they started to taper off, but she's having one the other day. And I was working. So I was like on the computer and typing up emails and grading paper. I was doing all of this like work stuff. And she like blew up out of nowhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, we haven't had one of these in a while. Try to talk her off the ledge, get her to calm down. But then I stopped for a moment and said, wait, what exactly is happening before that? Maybe not so much with her, but within me. And it's just kind of like you said, Poonam, like chaos on the inside. It was like trying to multitask and getting too many things done and too much mind activity and not enough just being and stillness. It was probably a point where I really needed to take a break from all of that, but I wasn't. And so, poof, she blew up, even though she was calm a few minutes ago. So those are the things that kind of came up for me.
Beautiful example, exactly to what I was saying. So thank you. That we need to look into ourselves, right? Responsibility, the word itself says ability to respond, right? I think Stephen Covey says that it may be one of his 7 habits as well, that we need to have the ability to respond.
It's the ability to seek first to understand
Yeah.
before responding is one of his habits.
And
But you're probably thinking of like his habit 1, proactive, where you are the one that's in charge of all choices that are made. Like being proactive means to be, in charge of ourselves, looking in.
and then being proactive is more of law of attraction, that we are co-creating our present moment. Know that we are co-creating our present moment. Thank you, Eileen. And just getting out of the habit of, like Eckhart says, right? Like he is at the point that he does not meet any deadlines. And I've heard Byron Katie say the same thing, that I have scheduled a lunch appointment tomorrow. The present moment will determine if that lunch happens or not. Right? Because even 1 minute before the lunch, he may say, oh, I don't want to meet this person. Right? I know there was a point in time where Lakshmi said that she wanted to be everywhere on time and everything. That was but the present moment always determines, because we don't know and that fixation that we have to meet somebody at a certain time then becomes the ego. Again, that's a thought form, and we become very attached to that opinion that we are going to meet somebody at a certain point. The moment we say, the present moment will determine if I meet this person or not, right? It loosens everything up. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. First of all, breath-wise, am I going to have this life tomorrow? I know this moment I have this breath, but we may not be alive, right, tomorrow. So that gives much more freedom. It's almost like the lost ring. What was the mantra of the lost ring? Is that so? The story of the king that got the ring, wasn't it? Is that so?
I don't remember the wording of that one, but there's another one that's similar to it. I can't remember it right now.
Okay, it'll come to us. So everybody think of what was that lost ring? The guy who gave the king a lost ring. I mean, not the lost ring, gave him a ring, and it said something like it almost was like, is that so, or maybe, or it's going to be just as it is, right? So,
but I have a question in regards to that, because, and I've been listening to Eckhart, I think, in the new video that he just put out in January, right? About doing and the balancing, and he's more in the being, and he was giving the example of Oprah Winfrey, that even though she does a lot more doing, she's like, it's very hard to be 50-50, right? Balance. You always tend to lean to one side. But in regards to like this being on time and him not meeting deadlines, but when he's expected to talk and be somewhere, then there's an expectation there because people have paid and people are gathering, and there's more of an expectation to be on time for that talk, for that presentation. So what is the difference between that and being, I mean, I'm not saying that we always have to be on time, but giving that same consideration to a friend when you're going to meet, or you have a family gathering and you're going to meet at this date at this time, and okay, there you can be a few minutes late, no big deal, but just to just say I'm not going to go without, I mean, yeah, I don't think you'd see Eckhart or somebody else that has a speaking engagement just say I'm not going to go because it doesn't feel, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but what level do we say it's okay in this example, but it's not okay in that one?
He could say, I don't want to be there. Like, I can see Eckhart saying that. To him, it's not important. He's not attached to being at a certain, like his identity is not attached with being there and giving the talk. His identity is not, he's like totally removed from the fact that he needs to be sitting there and giving that talk. Right. And he's been late, even to School of Awakening, he's been late. Like there's one time during School of Awakening, one of the retreats, I think in the 2020 School of Awakening retreat, something happened. The gates didn't open to wherever he was. The hotel room gates didn't open or something. And he had to jump over. He did something to jump over, but he was late to that retreat session, I remember. So that's the thing, right? Like if he was fixated that I need to be there on time and I have to be there, if not, my reputation will be totally ruined if I'm not there on time. When when we are identified that way, then there's more anger and anxiety out of the fact that we want to be there on time. And when we say the present moment will determine, just like his present moment determined whether he was going to be there at that retreat. And there was another retreat that he's been late. Like, and he says, right, I'm glad that you were sitting here and being in your presence. Like he'll come in late and go, y'all were not saying that, oh, even Eckhart cannot be on time. Like there are certain talks that he said that. He's not been on time on talks as well. And I don't think he's very like so attached to the fact that, oh, I lost my reputation just because I was not on time. He doesn't have any of that. He just says, I hope you all were not thinking, getting angry with me, or, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, I hope you all were not getting angry with me sitting there on your chairs and thinking, Eckhart, look at that guy. He can't be on time. He's keeping me waiting. Look at me, this important person, and this Eckhart that doesn't come on to the talk, even to a talk on time, right? So I know Eckhart has joked about it quite a few times, like a couple of times, like there've been talks that he has not been on time. He's not very, this thing that, oh, I have to start, if it's at 8:00, that it has to start at 8. He's not very fixated on it because he has started things late. Even with the recordings, he has started late, right? Like on School of Awakening. And this is like virtual setting. You're virtually there. If you prepare it well enough, you can start on time, and he doesn't start on time. So Ken, you want to say something about this topic? I know you've been waiting to speak.
Yes. And yes, I so love the subject. Thank you, Michelle, for starting it out. And Eileen, so many things that you've said that you kind of, I said, oh, gee, I was going to say that. Oh, I was going to say that. And I'm going to start this off where it's amazing how whenever I come on, I have nervousness. And then first thing I look at is who's on the panel. And when there's certain people on the panel, I go, oh, good, I'm not going to be picked first. So I'm just being aware of the different reactions that I go through with my own thinking. And then when I start thinking, I went, don't go there, just be present, just be here now. So I'm just being the observer of paying attention and listening to what's going on. And then there's another part of me saying, I love you. We're going to get through this. You're not alone anymore. We're going to do this together. And so it's just amazing how different things can come up. And I used to be a runner. I'm going to run. And even coming to speak, I mean, that was huge. And then the other part is I'm not good enough. Oh, gee, am I going to freeze? So those are just thoughts. And then I can really see how I used to sabotage myself. So if a certain thought comes up or a particular fear comes up, how I can feed it and how I have to really be present. So learning this new behavior is helping me just to be who I am, not to be who I'm not. And then it energizes me. And how the energy from everyone here, I can actually feel the love in each and every one of you. And before this group, I never felt that, not to the way I am now. So I realized that it's my energy also that's reflecting your energy. So there's nothing that you are that I'm not. And I'm starting to really be aware of that and really being able to observe where I'm at in the moment. And if something comes up, I'm going to say, okay, just deal with it when it comes up. So the whole idea of the power of now, the power of presence, that's all I have. And that has helped me to jump hurdles where before I would remain stuck in a low grade energy and not feel that good about myself. And so I'm really pushing through. It's like giving birth to who I really am and not allowing those inner parts of me to just repeat themselves. So it's just been incredible how this loving energy or being in alignment, when one person speaks, it actually feeds a thought in myself that hasn't even occurred yet. It's just amazing. So for me, this energy is the same energy that is working through us for all the other things inside of us. And this is just perpetuating this magnificence or this perfection of what's going on inside that I can't even put words to. And it's like, that's the miracle. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. So Caesar, you want to say something?
I did, but you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ali.
I was just going to say to what Ken was just sharing about, like, having someone speak like a thought that you didn't necessarily have yet. Ryan and I were talking about this last week, and because every time him and I meditate together, we have like that kind of an experience. And then at the end of the session, you know, we'll check in, and we were laughing last week because he's like, I'm not sure. It's like the chicken and the egg. Did you have that thought and then that made me say it? Or did I have that and then that made you think it? Like, it was like, so I think that does, when we're kind of connected energetically, which we all are, I think things like that happen. But it was a funny story.
Thank you. It's good to know that Ryan is doing well.
Yes, he is.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for that
Thank you.
almost like beautiful example, just like Eileen, following Eileen's example, right? So to give Caesar, our channel is here, and spiritual teacher, one of our panel members. So the question, Caesar, is, I had recently posted a post excerpt from Eckhart saying something about, Eckhart says, at one point your surrender needs to move to the state where no longer are you generating any negative feelings, right? No irritation, no anger, none of that. So to that, Michelle had responded, and she said, a not so subtle shift here from acceptance to non-negative emotion creation, but how to arrive at the next stage. Is it through continued meditation, diet, knowledge, presence, practice, or is that simply divine grace? So you want to give advice on how do you no longer generate any kind of negativity? What is that level of presence power?
Yep. So practice is one way to do it, but when you get accustomed to feeling good about feeling good, you'll always choose to do that, to feel good. It's hard to have negative thoughts when you are vibing at a high level, when you're just joyous and, grateful. It's hard. And sometimes we hear or experience things that are and can be uncomfortable, which would appear to create negative thoughts. You might be reminded of something in the past. If something like that does come up, obviously we know what to do. Check in, embrace it, surrender to it, and then move forward. In a nutshell, when them instances come up, the negativity, unless you address it and surrender to the isness of it, it will continue to pop up. It stays within you as a pocket. So that's one of the ways that the negative energy will creep up on you and continue. So until you address all these things, and sometimes, it could take a while. There's many things that, in occurrence, if you can get to a point where you can accept everything as the wholeness and just surrender to everything in a nutshell, that's great. But most people have to take this one step at a time, one occurrence at a time. So when the negativity arises and something like that reminds you of something that causes the pain body to awaken, you have a negative thought or negative emotions about it, it is the opportunity right then and there to surrender to the isness of that particular thought that created the negativity, in any way. So you're bringing, that into the light of consciousness, and it has to dissolve in that way. So as far as, moving through a day and, continuing to have, presence power and be rooted there and enjoy the fruits of it, meaning the joy and the exuberant, I like to be excited. I like to just take myself, and sometimes people think I'm goofy because we laugh and we joke, and it's all just to, you have that choice, that option to be ecstatic about life and excited, what's around the corner next. And when you're like that, only exciting things will come to you. But again, sometimes there's a flow of disruption, or disruption to the flow, in ways of negative thoughts. So again, if you can embrace and feel good just about feeling good, there comes a point where you don't need a reason. It's just the eye opening, the breath in the morning. Them are all reasons to feel good. So to answer the question, practice is one way. The longer you can go throughout a day, then reflect on that day when you've had an amazing day and there were less and less occurrences that brought negativity about. For some people, they have carried negative thoughts and they just have a negative view on life in general. And then they get a hold of this information that we have, through, some of the spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle said, Guru Abraham Hicks, and so on and so forth. And so we start unleashing the knowledge that's already within us. Now, the key again is going to be to practice that. And you just have to like to feel good. But again, the negativity is going to slow down, and it's kind of really all about changing your perspective on life. That kind of will rid the negativity in the long run. When you just look at everything in a beautiful light as it is, without judging and labeling and such, because that's what creates the negativity, in a lot of ways. So practice, in a nutshell, and just remind yourself, to feel good, put your attention on things that only make you feel good. Direct your energy to things that only make you feel good. When somebody comes into the circle and breaks that current, don't let it gain momentum, and then shift right back. Dismiss it, accept the business of it, and then get back to feeling good. Because through the law of attraction, you're going to get what you're putting out. So, if you're going 40% of your day looking at things in a negative view, having negative thoughts about situations, most of the time, them thoughts won't even be about having anything to do with us. It's we judge other people, we judge situations. I wouldn't do it like that. God, if that was my kid, I would do that. So most of the negative thoughts are just escaping ourselves, has nothing to do with our being. So if you, like Totally says, watch the thinker, and you start becoming accustomed to knowing the antics and the tricks of the mind and how they can affect us as if they were the antics of a child, as like Totally says. And you begin to see what's happening on the other side there with the thought process. It encourages you to not invite the negative thoughts, not to lose the labels, to understand that feeling good is a choice. And so when you say negative, again, this is just a word anymore to a lot of people. In that, so what is really negative? What is bad? How you look at things. Is anything really bad? No, because you have to have the contrast in order to get something on the other side of that. What does feel good? This situation made you feel bad. So now you understand what makes you feel good or what you want, that allows you to feel good. And again, there you go. It's a choice. So choose to always feel good. Choose to always direct your attention, and just be aware of this. Be conscious of the fact that you can feel good at any time of the day, no matter what arises.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much, Caesar. Eileen posted a question. Eileen, did you want to say something? You said Louise posted something, right? You want to talk about it? Thank you.
She shared in the comments a quote from The New Earth, but I thought it would be helpful on the topic. So I was going to read it if that's okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So in the book, it says the modalities of awakened doing are acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm, which I think Michelle was saying earlier. Each one represents a certain vibrational frequency of consciousness. You need to be vigilant to make sure one of them, that's what jumps out at me, one of them operates whenever you're engaged in doing anything at all. From the most simple task to the most complex, if you are not in a state of either acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm, look closely and you will find that you are creating suffering for yourself and others. So I think Michelle was saying earlier, like, what happens if all I can do is like accept it? Acceptance is okay. Obviously, we want to be in a place of joy or enthusiasm, but that's not going to happen with everything. And then we have another question too.
Yeah, I think that's just the world. Like, there are moments where there's a lot going on around you, or a lot of demands at one time. Sometimes everything is like really level, like the lake is really calm, and there's been like a week where there's been multiple things going on. So like you're feeling pulled in different directions, right? And so, you know, even though you see it all happening, right? You feel like, I mean, you have to be doing and doing and doing. And so, in that craziness of doing, you kind of lose some of the anchor of that, you know, you're anchored in presence, but it's not as, it's hard to multitask, right? All of that, and then stay deeply, deeply rooted. So sometimes the root starts to come up a little bit, right? And then you just need to come back to it. And I know, like I was listening to Ram Dass the other day, and he was talking about he himself, you know, it just practice. What are the modalities he uses? And people were asking him, because it's not the same for everybody. You know, sometimes it's chanting for some person, or something, or meditate, or, you know, transcendental meditation, or it could be a form of yoga or service, or, and it's different for everybody, you know, and you have to find it for yourself. And that was after that post came up, I went on a podcast, and, you know, of course, synchronicity would happen. And then I just laughed because, you know, he answered kind of my questions. So.
Yeah, we, just like Caesar was saying, right, Michelle, we need to be so intimate with what is our 0 point. So intimate, and fiercely protect that 0 point, fiercely. Anything that takes me away from my 0 point, I no longer need to engage in it. Right? Whether it's friends, whether it is work, whether it is going out and doing stuff. If my 0 point is impacted, I'm not engaging in it. Couple of weeks back, people from work invited me to lunch, and I said no. Even though it was with my senior, you know how in corporate America, it's like, if your executive is inviting you to lunch and you're saying no, I just use the fact that I'm not vaccinated as the excuse. And I said, no, I'm not going to be in a group setting, right? But it's like, why am I going to engage in unnecessary conversation where, just like that one, who all saw that post from Sadhguru on my profile where Sadhguru said, stop having conversations. What takes you away from your present moment, I mean, from your awareness, is having conversations, right? So why am I going to engage in conversations? So, and whenever Caesar talks, I kind of like, I don't know why Abraham Hicks becomes predominant, her teachings become predominant in my head. One of the things she says is, or Esther channeling Abraham says, is they are just two kinds of people. There's not a Republican, Democrat, black, brown, white, nothing. They're not all these many people. They're just two kinds of people in this world. One who's under the influence of source, and the second that is not under the influence of source. They're just two kinds of, so what, just like Caesar, which disc are you going to be on? Are we going to be on the disc where we are completely aligned with source? Or are we going to be on the irritation disc, or anger disc, or the rage disc, or whatever disc is coming, disappointment, unease, whatever the disc is, right? That's what you're saying, right, Caesar?
Yes.
So fiercely protect that my alignment is our alignment. At some point in time, our spiritual practice, and that is what, so I'll give you an example of what happened with Eckhart. I'm sure since you have access to the website, you may be able to see the Q&A. There's this lady that asked Eckhart about this pain body question. And she goes, I don't know if you'll notice, watch next time that I play a talk. Eckhart is sitting, and right in front of him is Kim Ing sits like 2 rows right in front of Eckhart. I think she like energizes her presence, his presence with her presence. So she sits, and when we were in the talk at Denver, we thought that Kim was going to sit in the first row, right? And that we would be behind her. But they put us in the first row and Kim sat behind us, right? So it's like she always sits like 2 rows behind. And I'll point her, I mean, watch out for where she is. She's always in front of him, right? So this lady gets up, she's in the back of the retreat, somewhere a few rows back, and she goes, Kim is close to the ocean herself. Why does she need to be sitting right in front of you, Eckhart? And she asks him that question. I'm like, I fell off my chair laughing when I saw that. Can you believe like her pain body came up in the retreat? And she's like, why does Kim have to be right in front of you? She's already in with the ocean. And Eckhart just sits. He wants to smile and laugh, right? Because he can see the ego, the identification with the other person. And he's like trying to hold a smile. And then all he says is, do you see that whatever happens in your present moment, content arises, and then you judge it. I was like blown away that he didn't get angry about the fact that that is the level of presence power he's talking about, right? I mean, I would think that if any other husband was and a spiritual teacher was asked, why is your wife sitting right in front of you? Who would ask that question? Because I know even Stephen Mitchell, who is Byron Katie's husband, he sits in front, right? Like when she is on the stage, like in a music hall or something, she's with the attendee asking the question, he's sitting right in front of her, right? Stephen Mitchell is the same way. So why would your partner not sit right in front of you? They need to have the best seat, right? But that's the level of presence power, I think. In that excerpt, that's the presence power I see that Eckhart is talking about. So, Eileen, did you want to ask this question?
Sure. She's having a coughing fit, so I'm hoping that that's done. So Marla asks, Caesar just spoke about something that I have been asking. When negative thoughts or feelings come up, I'm not sure sometimes whether to just drop it or whether to sit with it. I don't want to push them away, and sometimes dropping it seems like that. And on the other hand, sitting with it seems like I'm wallowing in the pain body. Is getting back to feeling good ever just a way of denying the negative?
Caesar, you want to start with that? And then we'd go run. Thank you.
So I think you can get temporary relief, I guess, denying the negative. However, keyword being negative, I mean, not temporary. I don't think it's a good idea to dismiss, or tuck the negativity down, because there it creates that pocket of resistance. And as long as that is within you, it's going to continue to come up and nip you. At the thought of certain things or whatever brings you to that place, in regards to whatever that negative feeling or, thought is related to. Dropping it would be pushing it down, not healthy. Sitting with it, perhaps isn't enough. I think there has to be some type of acceptance happening. Allowing it to be, sitting with it, is one thing. But I think that's one of the steps that has to take place, perhaps, to accept it. Because without acceptance of, whatever it is, something is causing the negativity. So where is that coming from? The thought creates the negativity, yes. So how do you address the thought pattern to eliminate the negativity? It's one situation, one experience that you have to deal with. It's one thought that you have to deal with. Accept it, then you are able to move on from it. And if you notice the pattern of the negativity, you have to be the observer, like Ken was saying, in order to recognize how often is this negativity playing a role in your life? How often is it creeping up? Because again, sitting with it without, accepting the isness of whatever it is that created the negative thought. So again, it's going back to the perspective again. How are you looking at things? Is this happening more so than not? How are you looking at life? Are you missing the big picture? Are you missing the fact that you are love and everything is loving? Hard to invite negativity in that way, but at the end of the day, I believe we invite the negative, thoughts, in a sense, until you are, in control and on that disc with source. So, you may just be a negative person and no, not being harsh there. I would check and see how, the course of your day, do you look at things in a negative light? When things happen, do you repeatedly call them bad or negative? Because when you change the way you look at things, it puts a whole new light on the situation to where you won't look at things as being negative so much anymore. It's hard. Things I used to consider negative or bad that happened in my life and continue to happen in my life. Life still happens, but I don't look at them as negative things no more. Even a negative bank account isn't a bad thing because it's creating something else in me that allows me to grow from that personal experience, whatever it is. So it's no longer labeled or considered to be negative. The end of a relationship used to be a negative situation, a negative thought. I wish I had done this. Where are you when the negative thoughts arrive? You're not, chances are, you're not rooted in presence. Because to be rooted in presence says you're grateful for this moment and everything within it. So where does this negativity stem from and how do you address it? Created by the thought patterns. Change the way you look at things. Maybe say this isn't negative, this is an opportunity. I know Eileen likes to say that too, right? It's an opportunity. The negative situation that we're calling negative doesn't have to be negative. It could be an opportunity to grow from whatever it is. You can just say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to not really consider this being negative. I consider this negative. This is bad. This is what we know. This is how we're conditioned. The obsessive compulsive thinker has taught us to be a certain way and look at things through a certain light. So it doesn't have to be negative. So again, I'm wallowing in my pain body. Is getting back to feeling good ever just a way of denying the negative? It can be, I suppose. Yes. But if you want to, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, you want to sever the limb or re-heal the wound completely instead of just putting a Band-Aid on the bullet wound, address it so it doesn't keep happening. Invite the change the way you look at things like this.
Thank you so much, Caesar. I'll come back to what you were saying. Eileen is about to leave. I want Eileen to give her input before she leaves. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Some of what I was going to say, Caesar brought up, so that's nice. I was just going to go back to what I was saying earlier. I don't think it's one or the other. Whereas like the way she's saying, I feel like I need to drop it, or I need to, what was the other thing she said? Sitting with it, drop it or sit with it. I think it's like this meshing of the two. It's like a process, because like when I talk people through meditation and these, thoughts come up, whether they're good, bad, whatever, but like being able to bring our awareness to them, like acknowledging their existence and hopefully being accepting, because we try to be accepting of all that is. It is what it is after all. It's already happened or is happening. Can't change that. But then being able to take that awareness and with it, let it, like I was saying earlier, let it pass through. Or she's thinking like drop it. But when I say like letting go of things, I don't usually use it in those words, like dropping it. To me, that seems like that you're, like Caesar said, stuffing it down or trying to force it away, which is not what we're suggesting that people do. You want to sit with it in the sense of giving it your awareness, but not creating additional story out of it, not even planning or anything like that. Like, oh, I need to do this or I need to do this about it. No, just give it your awareness and then let it pass. To me, that's giving it, not only is it giving it your awareness, which allows you to get to that acceptance stage, but then it also gives you the ability to feel it, like we don't want to push our feelings away either. So you want to be able to feel whatever it brings up in your body, whatever emotions it brings up. You want to be able to sit with that, but not in the sense where she's saying wallowing in the pain body. To me, that seems more like story making and extra additional mind activity instead of just being aware of it and watching it pass.
Thank you so much, Eileen.
Good to see everybody.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm trying to think, how did I get rid of my negative thoughts? One of the things that helped me a lot is I focused on the first 4 chapters of A New Earth. So if Eckhart said resentment strengthens your ego, so when any thought that was resentful, so once the awareness arises, just like Caesar was saying, we are able to examine the content of what the thought is. And when we see the content, then I would go, oh, this thought is resentful and it is just strengthening my ego. I don't need it. Right? The moment we know that the ego is strengthening itself through that thought, I don't know if it's making sense to everyone, that the ego is keeping itself alive by repeating that thought, that resentful thought or complaining thought or some kind of judgment, that the ego is keeping itself alive and I'm no longer in presence because of that thought, then that noticing that that's the ego that is keeping it alive, it would drop. So the dropping it is not done by the mind. The dropping it is done by the presence. The presence sheds the light on the content that is arising. That, okay, there's this thought, and I don't need that thought because it's just strengthening my ego. The second part that would heal me as far as negativity is concerned is I would look at either the thought or the emotion, right? Sometimes the negativity is not the thought, it's an emotional field, like you're feeling irritated, or I would go, what is this teaching me? So like I've told over and over again, and all of you will notice these kind of things as well. I've told it over and over again that my mom had a violent temper, and she was verbally abusive, and she had like that scathing. I'm positive everyone has come across a family member or something with that scathing tone of voice. So all throughout childhood, I probably was resentful about that scathing tone of voice. Well, in my adult life now, if anybody used that scathing voice, even if they were at work, right? At work, some coworker said, or a friend used the scathing voice, the resentment and that irritation would arise. So what is it teaching me? It's not teaching me that, hey, I have negativity in me. It's teaching me that since childhood, I've had this resentment, right, with my mother. So we have to look at what is that emotion teaching me? What condition pattern? This goes back to all the limiting beliefs. It goes back to our past karmic accumulation. What is the karmic accumulation in me? This emotion is teaching us something. It's a lesson. It's attention here and now, like the parrot or the bird that was taught, right? It's saying attention here and now. But what is it teaching me in this moment? That anytime I hear that scathing voice, that there's going to be reactivity in me, right? The moment I have that awareness that so when that scathing voice comes from somebody, immediately, like Eckhart says, right, we dial up the dimmer switch. We dial up a presence power so that that person doesn't draw us into that scathing voice. The reactivity doesn't come up. I'm hoping some of this is tied into Michelle's question as well. It's just like you become highly alert that, okay, here comes this. So I'm quite aware of all my past condition patterns and what is going to pull me from my presence power, because I know what my conditioning is. That verbal abuse is going to, if anybody is physically abusing somebody else, talk about what Ken says, right? Trigger. It can be a major trigger, right? If you've been physically abused and somebody is, even if you watch a movie that somebody is physically abusing, then it's going to become a trigger, right? So what I do is I don't watch any TV at all. It's been 15, 20 years. I don't watch any TV. The show that I watch is Seinfeld, which is one of Eckhart's favorite shows. Right? He talks about George Costanza all the time, and George Costanza's egoic behaviors all the time. So it was like amazing how Eckhart picked up on all the spiritual lessons in Seinfeld. But Ken, you want to say something about this?
Yes.
I've given a few examples of what I do, what I did with my negative feelings. And so I'm kind of like, then they drop, like once you become aware of it. Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, so much of what Caesar said. And then I just want to add, if somebody's talking to me, or if I'm listening to somebody and I get movement, a subtle shift inside of me, it may be anger, it may be hurt, it may be frustration, it may be judgment, critical, whatever it is, I say, okay, so I'm like aware, zoning in. And because I'm realizing many, many times that if it's coming from outside of me, then there's some way I'm reflecting that, or there's some way that something in me got moved around. So then I can own it and say, okay, this is my stuff, rather than pointing the finger at somebody else. And I'll go inside, and I call them invisible splinters. On the physical plane, you get a splinter and you try playing with it, and then you get upset and you say, heck with it, let it come out. 4 or 5 days later, all of a sudden it just pops out naturally. Well, with me, with my emotions, it's the exact same thing. If something moves around, a lot of times I'll say, okay, I'll say, I'm going to work with me. It's like almost like doing the Ho'oponopono prayer. Is it the shadow? Is there something inside of me? And lots of times when I'm in a quiet place, I'll say, God, help me to remember, or help me to understand what's going on. And if I can let it go, just like that splinter, 4 hours later, 6 hours later, and I realize whatever experience I'm going through, something will emerge just like that. And I call that the invisible splinter. And then I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And it's usually something from my past that I need to understand and realize that a lot of things have attachments. So if I thought if I dealt with something and then it comes around again, well, there's still something else that is inside of me. It's mine. I own it. And I'll either talk to somebody about it, I'll pray, I'll meditate, and then usually what I'll do is I'll let it go. Don't think about it. Because as soon as I start planting that in my head, the lies and the illusions, and it tells me this and that and everything else, and I'm lost. So, but it's there was something else I wanted to say in that, and I completely forgot what it was. So I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. Michelle, you wanted to say something about what Marla said, and I'm going to post it for Patricia so that she can read.
Yeah, I think when we bring in presence power to that reactivity or that negativity and however that shows up, and we're able to catch it there at the beginning, it loses its momentum. So if we're able to do it, because I could see that happening in myself much more often, like as it's arising, I'm already seeing it. And so that background irritation used to be a lot, much more. Now it's just there subtly, right? But it's not as loud, right? So it's like peeling the layers of the onion. You have to just keep peeling it away and peeling it away. It's not something that's drops by grace, it's work, it's vigilance, and just practicing, as you're seeing it bubble up. And that's not to say that you're suppressing it, because you're shining the light of awareness on it. And if it catches the momentum, then you have to accept it. And, I try to, see where it is in the body, right? And if you can really be present and anchor yourself in, is it in the clenched jaw or the pit in the stomach, and breathe into it so that you can allow it to be, and then try to get that energy, that in the stuck energy moving, right? Not so easy if you're really in the thick of it. So I think it's just with time, being patient. We didn't, this conditioning of ours is thick. It's been with us for so many years, and it takes work. It takes work and dedication and perseverance and determination. And you got to want the air. You got to want the oxygen. I mean, it's like, of freedom, right? Of lightness. I mean, that's got to be more important than anything. So, we offer ourselves self-compassion and a lot of patience on the way there, on this voyage that we're all on. And some days there's times in your lives where, it's really calm. And then there's times in your life when things are much, challenging. And you can, and then I think you welcome those moments because you say, hey, I've come a lot further than I would have been able to, at other times. So you can see how far you've come. And I have a visitor, I'm sorry. So
Hi,
Hello there.
Paloma.
Poonam.
Hi, Poonam.
Good evening. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so those are my 2 cents.
Mama.
Thank you. Perfect. Patricia, did you want to say something? I think we are getting close to an hour, so.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. Sorry, I missed the first half, but I'm gonna watch it on the recording. So, yeah, that's an important question because I think we all, before we got a little more present, we had those beliefs, thoughts, feelings, everything, the suffering, the negativity, and I think that's that vibration, very low vibration, and just keeps holding us there. But I don't think dropping it, I think almost like Eileen said, it's something different. It's maybe reframing. I would reframe it. It's not dropping it, or it's not wallowing in it. Because then it says that if we drop it, we almost like ignore it. It's bad. We're judging it. It's negative. So let's just get rid of it. I don't want it. So it's the judgment comes in, which is, in a sense, some form of resistance, right? Then if we just sit in it, and yes, you're afraid that this negativity will pull you into it, you're going to start feel bad, and the thoughts will start to find excuses why it's happening and trying to someone to blame. So yes, there is that. If I'm not yet have my power, the presence power enough in that moment, that would, dwelling in it would pull me down to the negativity. So I think it's a matter of maybe noticing, and like Michelle said, where in the body is it? Just breathe in it. And I know from physiological point of view, it only takes 16 seconds for the emotion. If there is a situation and that flight and fight in just comes out, it's something, anger or like fear or whatever, these are emotions that we were equipped as a physical body that to protect us. So if the situation requires that, it takes only 16 seconds. If we notice, okay, there's not like a wild animal running after us, it's just a situation, then noticing it and knowing that it's only taking 16 seconds and just taking 3 conscious 4 or breaths, and the emotions will disappear. So this way, our brain will not start, giving it energy and just making it bigger into, oh my God, it happens to me. Why am I always, person that is so unlucky? Of course, that is the whole story. So I think that that presence power, it's always, just like you Poonam said, it's like, okay, something comes out, but don't give it any, if it's bad, good. No, it's just like, hey, it's a part of the moment. Breathe. And it's almost taking, we take it that power away, that momentum, we just cut it off. So it's not almost by dropping, it just disappears, but the light of awareness. It's just, and I think it also changes with time, because the more we practice the present moment awareness, then we don't have to worry about, getting pulled back, or it's like, it's less and less of it. It's slowly, yeah. But for me, it was like with Ken, if I even was entertain it, it's like, let's look into it. Why am I thinking that? And then I was afraid, that it's going to start bringing the suffering from the past, and whatever other pain bodies is attached to it is gonna, it's like the whole chain reaction. So right now I was just better off breathing. The breathing was really helping me, just to feeling my heart like pacing so fast, and just concentrating on that. So everything else just had to go away by itself, because I was really present. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Patricia. There's a considerable change in Patricia in the last couple of months, right? 2022, Patricia is a different Patricia.
It's really, every one of you helped me so much, so much. I mean, even this morning I was listening to Michelle send me something on Messenger, on podcast, Ram Dass. Oh my God. I mean, every word I cherish. It was so perfect. I don't know how you knew it. It was just exactly the message today. And I was very proud of myself that I opened myself up to someone new, because I was supposed to listen to it last night, but it's like, no, it's Eckhart. Why am I gonna do it? But I'm gonna trust Michelle. I'm gonna trust Michelle. The universe is just, maybe, sometimes you need to move. And he was exactly talking about this. I was talking that different stages, each one of us is so intricately different. We share certain emotions the same, with human beings, but the exact mix of everything is just very uniquely us. So what works for one person in that moment, because it also depends on what stage of their spiritual path, people are. So that was so brilliant. I mean, and he was laughing. Exactly. I think that the one thing in common with a lot of spiritual teachers that are really, really amazing is the humor, the lightness, right? It's just, that's how I think that's just that spaciousness in your lungs, in the universe. All of a sudden, everything is just lighter, more playful, instead of that condensed and very heavy, that bringing you down and just torturing you.
Very contracted feeling. And I feel it also has to do with who we are with, and the negative. So negativity is like a cloud. Like you almost can kind of, the cartoon where you see the person putting their head in the cloud. It almost is like that. So again, the vigilance of the presence power, right? Who am I with? Is, if I go to this certain part of the city, am I feeling heavier, right? If I'm engaging with these few people, even if they're family members, am I feeling heavier? If I'm feeling heavier, then I need to step away from those family members, right? So the constant vigilance needs to be there of your presence to notice what is happening with the vibrational energy, right? I went to lunch with these family members, this certain group of family members, and where did Caesar says, let it come and let it go, thoughts like clouds. But negative thoughts have that electromagnetic frequency, right? Abraham Hicks says you get on a momentum and that momentum will take you and it's gone. It's like the car going down a cliff. You push it a little bit. If you didn't catch it, like Michelle said in the beginning, you were like, the momentum is going to carry you and you're just going to spiral, right? So the part is catch it before it's going downhill. The other thing that Patricia mentioned, I think I've heard Abraham Hicks say, because of the 17 seconds, all she does is she starts to count. Esther does that, right? She says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're not getting into the next negative thought, right? Because the counting will break that momentum of getting into the next negative thought, because that's what, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, right? Like our body is going to remind us the moment the thought arises, the body has the memory of the emotion. Where does the subconscious mind live? It lives in our body, not in our brain. Our body is the subconscious mind. All the memories are stored at the cellular level in our body, and our body is going to remind us, can you feel that irritation? You need to be feeling that irritation. That person is using like the scathing voice. That person is using the scathing voice. Feel that irritation. Come on, Poonam, and shake us up, right?
I have one question too. Just something remind me. I was listening to a podcast one. It was a couple that wrote a book about being so mindful and in the present moment together and really working, kind of like Ken and his partner. Not Ken, Kelly. I'm sorry, Kelly. The Ki Chang teacher. And this couple said that what they do, if there is like sometimes a conflict, one of them, they stop themselves from breathing for however long they can. It's almost like it's because of the aggressive reaction or emotion, if it's taking the power back, almost like, because we can control our breathing, even though obviously eventually we have to start breathing again, but because it's not just following the breath, it's actually stopping, like holding the breath for however. Have you heard about this technique? No. Stop breathing.
But what I would say is every person needs to focus on what builds their presence power. Like I've told, and this is where Sadhguru and the yogic system helps, because the science behind the yogic system is, some people, they look at the balancing of the elements, right? Like I told Patricia, like I can know from Patricia that she has more the fire and the air element. So she needs earthing, right? So I told her she cannot just sit, because I've noticed she doesn't say that she feels comfortable sitting in meditation, right? For me, sitting, because I have the kapha, the whitehead body, right? The kapha earthy body. Let me sit for hours and I'll be totally fine with it. Now ask me to do breath work. Ask me to do yoga or anything like physical. It's something against my nature. So that's what Ramdas may be saying, Michelle, in the podcast, that each human being, depending on their body type, right? The elements, what is imbalanced in your body, it's really, there are 5 elements. Actually, according to yoga, according to the Gita, there are 8 elements, ether and all that, but 5 physical elements, which is water, fire, air, earth, and what's the fifth one? Ether. 5 elements. So we need to balance these 5 elements. And one of the elements is air. But if you have too much airy, like above airy, then you have to earth yourself. So ground. And Ken, do you have any grounding? One is work with soil. You can apply clay. Patricia, for you, you can apply clay, like do mud baths, like apply clay to your body if you have not, and balance your water element. Take baths, don't shower. Take more baths than showering, right? And see if that balances you out. Because maybe you have more air and fire. And that's why the activity in the mind, right? And I'll go to Ken about the walk
Yes, I
barefoot
love
on the earth.
swimming. Walk barefoot on the earth. Yes. I do like that.
Yeah.
Ken, do you have any ground? How do you ground yourself? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, right now I'm doing a lot of yoga, which is really grounding me. And I realize that when I do yoga poses, that what is stored in the body, as you were saying, the body is holding on to a lot of the woundings. And as I do certain poses, I'll have certain parts of my body that will ache and I'll push through them. And when I do, it will usually bring up discomfort. And then I'm like, then I'll have an aha moment. I'll go, oh my God, because that's connected my left shoulder, or I have a backache or whatever. And then the other thing I really do is I've always been grounded because doing the landscaping work, and I go for at least 5 times a week, anywhere between 3 and 5 miles, I'll walk in the woods. And then in the summertime, I'm barefoot a lot. And then I do go into the ocean, even if it's for 5 minutes in the water or whatnot. So I'm finding that, and I pay attention to what my body tells me. And I remember probably a month ago, you were saying at Eckhart, when he goes shopping, he'll know what vitamins and minerals he needs because he'll be directed to certain vegetables. And I so agree with that. And I'll start thinking of, okay, and I'm somebody who eats lots of different things. And I listen to my body and it will tell me when I need seafood, when I need vegetables or whatever, I swear. And a lot of people used to say, you're nuts. And I'm like, no, I just pay attention. And I realize that I've been zoned in on so much of what's natural and what is unnatural. And most of my life, even people start yik-yakking, talking about certain things. I'm like, just like you, Poonam, no, thank you. See you later. I got car keys. I'm an adult now. I'll leave when I want to. But it's just amazing when we listen to our inner intuition, our inner gut, and we're in tune, we're directed to what we need. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ken. I think we did a good hour and a half. So we meet again next week on Wednesday at the same time. Eternally grateful to all of you for being here, and everyone. Louise, and I'm sure Christina was online, and Nadal may have been online, and Marla for the questions. So eternally grateful. Happy New Year. And let's look forward to a miraculous 2022. Yes.
Absolutely.
Great.
All right.
Incredible. Thank you. Much love. Many blessings. Good night.
Right.
Bye.